Homeric hymn to Aphrodite. I will sing of stately Aphrodite, gold-crowned and beautiful, whose dominion is the walled cities of all sea-set Cyprus. There the moist breath of the western wind wafted her over the waves of the loud moaning sea in foam. There the gold-filleted hours welcomed her joyously. They clothed her with heavenly garments. On her head they put a fine, well-wrought crown of gold, and in her pierced ears they hung ornaments of orcalic and precious gold, and adorned her with golden necklaces over her soft neck and snow-white breast, jewels which the gold-filleted hours wear themselves whenever they go to their father's house to join the lovely dances of the gods. And when they had fully decked her, they brought her to the gods, who welcomed her when they saw her, giving her their hands. Each one of them prayed that he might lead her home to be his wedded wife. So greatly were they amazed at the beauty of the violet crown Cytherea. To the ancient Greeks, Aphrodite was their golden goddess. Never in Western history has a goddess had such recognition or been more illustrated than Aphrodite/Venus. The Greeks regarded their sexuality as a sacred gift, and nothing delights Aphrodite more than the gratification of the senses. Moreover, she wasn't denied the rule of any living thing, for Venus, Aphrodite, was and is, in all things, the sensuous presence. This primal energy has been present and recognized as present from the onset of life. Since the beginning of human civilization, she has had many names: Venus, Aphrodite, Sibyl, Hathor. As civilization formed in the Tigris-Euphrates Valley and mythology was established in Sumer's social structure, this archetypical energy permeated their lives as Ishtar. Later, she evolved into Babylon's Astarte. The more matriarchal societies experienced her as a goddess of sensual reproduction. This station elevated her to the supreme queen of heaven. Between 3000 and 1800 BCE, there were temples where Ishtar was served by her priestesses, the Kadishtu. The socially sanctified activities of these women were to participate freely in sexual and sensual rituals. For centuries, such temples were commonplace in the Western world, forming an essential aspect of matriarchal society, one that we can hardly imagine today. The patriarchal tribes of Israel, who were in exile as well, had difficulty reconciling the goddess worship they encountered. Their patriarchs and prophets rarely missed an opportunity to debase Astarte, Ishtar, as the great whore of Babylon. Now that is just a little bit of Venus's history and how we show the Aphrodite, Venus, Ishtar, the goddess of many names. And as we have Venus in retrograde, she is doing all of those reads just like all the other planets do. She's remembering. She's reprioritizing. She is looking at where she is placing her energy as well as money. So this is a big time, and we consider this energy of this past, and we can see how it is common day place in many different ways. According to Merlin Stone's book, When God Was a Woman, women celebrated the feast of Adonis at the temple of Aphrodite in Corinth by having one-night stands with strangers of their choice as late as 150 AD. Between the Greeks and us, however, stands Christianity. And when the Judeo-Christianity became prominent, this stopped a majority of the matriarchal rule. This was something that Saul, aka St. Paul, could not wrap his mind around. To him, it was better to marry than burn. He was completely obsessed negatively with fornication. To him, celibacy was the superior position, and it was about taking no pleasure at all, as we were lowly servants. Even the Muslims who succeeded the Christian have gone even further into actually practicing female mutilation. Again, making sure that the woman does not enjoy these pleasures that she was born to experience. So we take Venus, who is ruled by Taurus, as well as she rules Libra. And we look at this and how she relates. Venus and Taurus, that is an very fixed earth sign. I always say that Taurus is very, very fixed earth sign. But Libra is a cardinal air. It's an initiator. Taurus is the earth, and it is about the agriculture, food, resources, those things that we use to produce. Whereas Libra is about balance and harmony, as well as how we relate, not only to ourselves, but to others. So when we think of Venus, we think of love, we think of beauty, we think of luxurious things, we think of pleasure, we think of our values, what we consider valuable to us, what we desire, our wants. And we can also look at our money. So while Venus is in retrograde, we are going to be looking over these items. This episode is to help you better understand this Venus retrograde and what these energies mean. So when we think about Venus, we think about love, we think about beauty and art, everything that the senses can enjoy, pleasure. And this is also connected to financial as well, money, because that is physical. That is what is our physical energy exchange in today's world. And we can't leave out love and seduction, sexuality, sensuality. All of these things also are associated with Venus. Venus is that archetype of the primordial essence of femininity. And we always like to see that light half, but we don't want to see the darker half of her. She is considered the goddess of love, and her lover would be Mars. And Mars rules Aries as Venus rules Taurus. Well, Venus also rules Libra, and Mars was also the ruler of Scorpio at one time. So this is polarity really being attracted to each other. You talk about opposites. The opposite, or the axis of Taurus, is Scorpio, and the opposite axis of Aries is Libra. So you see how these two energy really entwine together. Mars is more masculine, so it more penetrates things. And Venus engulfs, just as Mars asserts things. He's assertive, he's action-oriented, he goes and gets it. Venus attracts. And these talk about the different energies of the masculine and the feminine. And reading all of this mythology and learning this stuff can really help you understand the archetypes that we are working with in astrology. Now, as I stated, I talked about bringing this Venus retrograde, making it a little easier to understand. I know in my last reading I did of Venus retrograde, there was very much details, and it was one of really explaining to you what is going to happen in the bigger terms. So now I want to bring it down to a personal level. Venus is very personal, she's inner. And here, this is where I want to talk about simplifying things. So, one of the things that we talked about with Venus is that she is connected to our style. She's connected to what we find beauty in. And for Venus retrograde in Leo, this could bring changes to our style. This could include all of our aesthetic looks, including our hair. And I will warn you during this time, do not go out and get yourself a edgy kind of haircut, I guess I should say. Now, if you were thinking about doing this before Venus retrograde, that's one thing. But if this is something that is just coming to your mind right now while Venus is in retrograde, I would say wait until she's out of retrograde and then revisit it. Remember, right now she's reassessing things. She really doesn't know what she wants and what she doesn't. She really doesn't know her desires. She's in a retrograde and she is having to reprioritize, reconsider things. That kind of thing. So we need to be careful of those radical changes during any retrograde, really. So this could also connect us to the clothes that we wear, how we present ourselves, including makeup, wearing it or not wearing it any longer, the way that we do dress, to go out, maybe even our taste will change. Venus can, it's connected to the senses, so we could start changing the way that we eat. Remember, Taurus is connected to agriculture, so this could be a time that we change our diets. We are starting to eat better foods, just being more healthy and thinking along our health wise instead of just going out there and just gorging on anything. We need to really look at the food that we're eating. If we want to be healthy, then we have to eat those healthy foods, right? This could also get into tattoos. This is a time where you may be inspired to get a certain tattoo, maybe even cosmetic surgery. If you've been considering this time can really help you make that yes or no decision. Again, remember, she's in retrograde, so be careful with that. And this could also consider any kind of treatments, any kind of physical treatments that involve the way that you look, as well as caring for yourself. And what we wear, we know we're not supposed to judge a book by its cover, but in all honesty, in today's world, we are very surface-minded people, and that first impression is very important when you're meeting new people. It is for me. When I meet someone for the first time, I do pay attention to the way that they are regarding the situation, meaning, do they respect my time? Do they respect who I am as a person, and so forth? And that is also for them too. Because if I'm running late or if I'm doing these things, they're also looking at me as saying, does she respect my time, and so forth. Venus herself is not superficial. Now, don't get me wrong. This is not in a superficial way. This is a way that is profound because she has meaning to this. This is about feelings and, the emotions. So this is profound to her. The way that we look on the outside, many, many times, I'll say 99.99999% of the time, is just a reflection of the inner part of that person. So if you can see, imagine an eclectic person. And I know we all know that one eclectic person, and you know that everything is eclectic about them. If they are eclectic, it's not just the way they dress and their home is normal, right? It is everything, because our physical, our superficial, outer part of us is a good representation of the inner. And this is where she's coming along. This also is it can reflect the way that we are evolving as well. You know, when you are a child, you play and dress like a child. When you become an adult, you act and you dress like an adult, and so forth. And this is where she's at, because guess what? This is very much connected to our values. And Venus is all about values. What is important? What is, the most important thing and close to your heart? And Venus represents what we place value in. Okay? So this could be value in a car. This could be value in a house. Or it could be value in our family and value in our relationships and, so forth. Venus, again, this sensuality and sexuality, the desires, all of those things, value is considered in that. So when she is retrograde, we're going to be looking at all of those values, meaning what we value in relationships, how we spend our time. Are we spending our time that is valuable? That, time is our most valuable commodity, right? But are we spending our time in productive ways? Are we putting our money into something that we value? Are these things as still of value to us? Are they still serving us, or are they no longer serving us? So, we are looking at how we spend our money, how we spend our time. This could be on actual things as well as, our time with people, in relationships, our friendships, our partnerships, business and romantic, and, our regular friendships. Are these energies being reciprocated? Are you the one giving everything and doing all the work? Or is it 50-50. And yeah, we know sometimes, that scale is not always directly balanced. We know that because things happen. Life happens to us, and we're not always able to be on our toes. But it is a give and take. Freely give and freely take. That needs to find some harmony. Yeah, you may do all the work sometimes, but then again, the other person may be doing more of this other work, this other detail. So these are things to consider. And that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about you doing all the work, period, while another person sits back and just reaps the rewards. That is what I'm talking about. This could also take us into more a philosophical approach to life as well. Because she really wants to ask us, does this bring us joy? Does this bring us love and beauty? Does it bring us pleasure? Does it make us happy? And if it doesn't make us happy, why? This is taking a deep look into what we value, so we could really see some major changes of heart, different things like that. You may be heading in one direction and you may realize that, what, this is not serving me. This is not heading in a direction that I wanted it to head in. And there can be some reconsiderations at this time. Now, in saying that and in going there, this can also be a time of reflection. This is a time of reflection over relationships primarily, because Venus is all about relationships. It is how we relate, not only to our lovers or our spouses and partners, so forth, but in our friendships, in business situations, as well as how do we relate with ourselves. Our lives, regardless of what you may think, is all about relation and how we relate to things. This goes into how we can grow and how we can heal from all of this, like evolving individually. How are we evolving individually? And then when we look at relationships, believe it or not, individuality is dependent upon the health and well-being of our relationships. Again, with ourselves and others. Relationships help us to decide what it is that we don't want and what it is that we do want. What we will not tolerate, what we will tolerate. It helps us draw our boundaries, and it helps us decide what is the best path or course for our life, for us to be able to be our highest expression. By experiencing relationships, we are developing this individuality that will help us discover our authenticity, who our true self is. And this retrograde gives us feedback as well. This is saying that, I'm really not happy here. I don't know about this. A retrograde is when a planet slows down so it can reconsider things. Time moves very, very quickly. We know this. So sometimes we can get so caught up in everyday life, we neglect what is going on underneath the surface. And these retrogrades help us. They help us grow. They help us find creativity within us that has been lost. And they help us heal. And that is another aspect of this Venus retrograde, is it is a time to heal. And I'm going to go into the hurt ego with this because she is in Leo. Leo is connected to our ego. Leo's planet is the sun. So if that says anything, that if it is all about ego. But the thing of it is that Leo is joyous, it's happy, and it love and all of these great things, and it takes pride in who it is. Leo is very prideful. And again, that can be used to the best or of the worst of it, okay? And just like the ego, an ego is good because it can protect us, but it can also be our detriment. The sun is very bright, and the sun is usually connected to like rulerships or kings, like that. And the moon is more connected to the people, like the town, because the moon doesn't shine by itself. It's just reflecting the light from the sun. So that is why in some cultures, when there was a solar eclipse, it was the king must die, meaning rulership was ending for one and beginning for another. But I don't want to digress here. I want to stick with this because the sun is associated with the ruler. And many times when we are having to live our life, we allow our ego to be our ruler because, again, that is what protects us. But our ego can be used to the detriment, like I stated, and it can become hurt. It can become wounded. So this can be a time to heal the hurt ego by looking at our relationships. The healthy ego knows that it's special. It doesn't have to prove anything. It doesn't have to be right. It doesn't have to make sure it's making its point. It doesn't have to talk over anybody. It doesn't have to go there. A healthy ego, it knows that it's special. And it doesn't have to overcompensate. This is give and take as well. This is about, can you be special without making other people feel less than you? And that is one of the things that I have witnessed a lot on social media when we see all of these different arguments going on. The people are operating in ego. They're not operating in relationship. And they're definitely not communicating. Communicating is when you fully listen to what another person says. And these people do not. I have watched these conversations go on, and I'm like, neither one of them is reading what the other one is saying. And I've had them as well. I've just given up on them because if people do not want to see and they're lost in their ego, they're not going to see. They're not going to hear anything you say. When we are in situations to where we are not being heard, where our voice didn't matter, that can really cause some trauma to our ego. What we tend to do is we tend to reflect that in the other relationships that we have by overcompensating, having to have that last word, having to be right. So, again, my favorite word is discernment. We must use discernment because is this the right place? Is this the right time? Is it really worth it? And does it even matter? Is it even relevant to what is being discussed? These are questions that we have to ask ourselves, and it's really sad to me because I know some wonderful people that are very brilliant, but oh my goodness, they really have a problem in listening. And this is a good time so we can heal that hurt ego and allow it to become healthy and understand that we don't always have to be right. We don't always have to prove a point. There are times that you can agree to disagree and walk away from it. It's okay, because you're not going to force somebody to believe your way. You're not going to force them. People are going to do what they want to do. They're going to believe what they want to believe. And when they're ready, now sure, you may have planted a seed, but when they are ready to open up their mind and to grow and experience that, that is the only time they're going to do it. Now, let's get into the last one, and this is changes in relationships. With relationships, Venus is very sensual and she's connected to our sexuality. She's love, and Leo is love too. Love and playfulness and that sort of thing. But another thing is that with Venus is in Leo, she's very dramatic, and she can be very theatrical with everything. It's just, so we can see some relationships go through some very theatrical times during her retrograde. Now, she won't be leaving Leo until October the 8th or the 9th of this year. So she is going to be retrograde for a while, and she is going to be spending a lot of time in Leo. So the longer a planet spends in a certain sign, and it doesn't matter what it is, which planet, what sign, it doesn't matter, but the longer the planet stays in that sign, the more we get to see the true actions of that planet. We get to see that planet in play, and we get to feel the true impact of that energy. With this in relationships, this is the energy of hopeless romantic as well. And we are going to be looking at loyalties of the heart. This is the placement in the heart. Venus in Leo is all about the heart and love and yes, passion. Remember, passion is just not that physical passion between two people. Passion is passion. It means about everything amplified. So here with Venus in Leo, she is going to serve intensely. She is going to love intensely in this placement. This will be very profound kind of love, and it is the kind of energy that will bring very deep transformation. Again, we are going to be looking at our loyalties. Okay, and the loyalties that have been tested and how have they transformed from that. We will be in our heart. This will be connecting us to our heart chakra, so it's going to be very intimate to us. This is very inner time and an intimate time with ourselves, and it can be a time to bring that heart-centeredness to relationships that are having problems and that are having some issues. So this will also lead us to make changes or to make new choices in our relationships. So we could definitely see a time where relationships can get stronger and more loyal and just better relationship where you're both coming together and you both have one wings. And what was that poem I'd read where relationships are like two people coming together with only one wing, but when we get together we both can fly. It's something like that. It's a beautiful poem. I can't remember where I heard it, but this is what it's talking about, is that taking these seeing these challenges that we have in our relationships and how can we overcome them, how can we transform them to more stronger relationships, and to be more intimate, not only with ourselves and each other. And when I'm saying intimate, this is about more heart heartfelt connections, connected more to the heart, not just by desires or by infatuation, but the heart, the loyalty that will never end, those strong bonds that bind, sometimes for eternity. We have to be careful of that too, right? So that is it for talking about Venus retrograde. And I had to read that in the beginning, that Homeric Aphrodite hymn, because it's just absolutely beautiful at how Venus and Aphrodite was regarded at one time. Many of us still hold great reverence for this goddess and for the energy that she represents, and the many names that she has had before us, and has many times, as more of the patriarchal types of spiritual paths try to debase her and try to just put her down to where she's less than nothing. We still remember her glory. We still remember the beauty that she stands for. We still look at nature and see beauty and understand that we are all a part of this web. We are all so interconnected. And we are supposed to feel that is a part of our human experience. We are spiritual beings on a human experience, right? We're just having an experience. And in this experience includes all of our senses, all of them. It's not just parts of them. It's not just pieces of them. We're not lowly nothings that don't deserve anything. We are made in perfection. Sure, we may be considered imperfect, so we are perfectly imperfect. We are all unique. We are all individual. There is not a single one of us that is alike another. We may have similarities, true, that may be true, but we are so unique. We have different skills. We have our different energetic essence that we give off. Yeah, so please, don't take yourself for granted. Take this time to really venture and discover your true self. Are you spending your money and your time in what you value? Do you really know what you value? Do you really know what you love? Do you know what you want? Do you know what you desire? These are all questions we can ask ourselves. And I urge you to take this time and really sit with Venus and sit in her energy. Just meditate with her. Think of her. There are many things that you can do in order to bring her into your meditation. You can use a picture, or you can use your imagination and imagine what Venus is. And if you live close to the beach, go spend time on the beach and feel the ocean, feel the water, talk to it. So really get in touch. Really get down into that depth. And this would be the beginning for you to make your foundation stronger and more stable for you in your future endeavor. Not for just a short time frame, but for the long term. Thank you so much for listening, and I do hope you enjoyed it. Until next time.